My mother called on a Thursday morning, and by the time she hung up, I knew my son had made the worst mistake of his life. I'm Luke Bennett. I fix things for a living. Not literally, though. I've patched enough drywall in my time. I mean, I'm the guy people call when something breaks that a wrench can't touch. Bad decisions, worse consequences. I've been doing it so long it stopped feeling like a skill and started feeling like a curse. And standing in my kitchen in Cedar Falls, Iowa, coffee going cold on the counter, I had that familiar electric hum in my chest, the one that meant something was already broken, and nobody had told me yet. Welcome back to Dad's True Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. It was Thursday, just past 9 a.m. My mother, Dorothy Bennett, 81 years old, still on a landline Burwood Lane in Davenport, called me out of nowhere. No hello. No comment about the weather or my hairline. Just my name dropped flat and careful, like she was testing the floor before she stepped on it. Luke. Hey, Mom. I turned the burner off. What's wrong? Did Nathan's graduation party already happen? There it is. I set my mug down slowly. Nathan, my grandson Christian and Olivia's boy, had just wrapped his first year at Drake University in Des Moines. Olivia had been talking for months about throwing him a party at their place out in Ankeny. Big deck, nice neighborhood. The kind of house they brought up in conversation more than was strictly necessary. I'd figured I'd get a call. I'd figured Dorothy would too. She's the boy's great-grandmother. She taught him gin rummy. She once chased a raccoon off his bike with a broom and didn't even spill her sweet tea. She earned an invitation. Yeah, I said slowly. I think it was this past Saturday. Why? Nobody called you. Called Christian, she said. Ask. He went quiet. Then Olivia got on the line and laughed. Said, "Oh, Mrs. Bennett, the party was last Saturday." Just like that, I felt something cool move through me. Not anger, not yet. Something more like recognition. She laughed. I didn't know it yet, but that laugh was going to be the most expensive sound Olivia Davis Bailey ever made. I called Christian before I was off the phone with Dorothy. He picked up fast, too fast, the way guilty people always do. And I didn't bother warming up. Why wasn't your grandmother at Nathan's party? Silence. The specific silence of a man running numbers in his head. Dad, just Nathan's friends, college people. It wasn't really a whole family. She's 81 and lives 20 minutes from you. I know, but I've got time. And then I remember this like it happened in slow motion. I heard Olivia's voice in the background. Not the words, just the tone. Low, urgent, pointed, like a coach whispering through a headset. That's when the hair on the back of my neck stood up. "We'll come by," Christian said finally. "Next week we'll explain in person." "Christian, next week, Dad, please." He hung up. I stood in my kitchen in Cedar Falls with cold coffee and a hot suspicion and the dawning ugly feeling that this had nothing to do with a party. Called Dorothy back. "They're coming next week," I told her. "Christian and Olivia, they want to explain in person." That sound the one that means she already knows the end of the story and she's waiting to see if I'll catch up. "Mom, what aren't you telling me?" Pause long enough to park a truck in. Shirley Greer was at that party. "Shirley, you're Shirley from First Methodist. She goes to Olivia's Pilates class now." The dryness in my mother's voice could strip varnish. She didn't know I hadn't been invited. Called me Sunday to say what a lovely time she'd had. Mentioned meeting a very professional young woman. Lawyer. Emily, she thought, had a leather folder. The floor shifted under me. A lawyer at a graduation party with a leather folder. Dorothy repeated, as if the folder was the part that really said it all. Maybe it was. Shirley said they all went inside for about an hour. Dorothy continued. Life the younger kids on the deck. When they came back out, Christian looked like he'd been told bad news. Olivia looked like she'd been told very good news. I didn't speak for a moment. "Mom." My voice came out low. "Careful. You know what I have to ask. Are they going after the house, the trust?" Dorothy Bennett had lived on Burwood Lane for 52 years. My father had built that trust before he died. land, savings, the kind of quiet, unglamorous wealth that accumulates when you never show off and never stop working. 11 acres outside Davenport. Accounts that would surprise people who assumed she was just a sweet old woman on a landline. Nobody talked about it. It was just there. The way the house was there, the way she was there. Permanent. Assumed. Until someone stopped assuming and started planning. Luke, she said. How long have you known Olivia? Long enough. Then you already know the answer. She was right. I did. I'd never been able to put my finger on what bothered me about Olivia Davis Bailey. She was polished, attentive, always said the right things at the right volume. But there was something underneath it. A quietness that wasn't calm. A watchfulness that wasn't warmth. I told myself I was being an overprotective father. Told myself Christian was happy and that was enough. I'd been lying to myself for years and I'd just run out of road. I'm going to make some calls, I told her. Already did, she said. And there was that thing in her voice. Not fear, not even anger. Something almost like amusement. The composure of a woman who'd been underestimated her entire life. And had learned to find it useful. Luke, honey, she said. How do you think I knew to call you on a Thursday morning? She hung up before I could answer. I stood in my kitchen in Cedar Falls on a Thursday at 9:47 a.m. and I thought about my son, who I had raised to be better than whatever this was. I thought about Olivia, smooth, careful Olivia, and the lawyer with the leather folder. I thought about Nathan, who'd had no idea his graduation was being used as camouflage. And I thought about Dorothy Bennett, 81 years old, Burwood Lane, Davenport, who had just hung up on me with the quiet confidence of a woman already 3 moves ahead of everyone in the room. I picked up my phone, pulled up a contact I hadn't used in 2 years, typed 3 words, call me. Urgent. I didn't know yet what Dorothy had already set in motion. But I knew this. By the time Christian and Olivia showed up with their careful smiles and rehearsed explanations, they were going to walk into something they had not prepared for. They thought they were coming to manage me, they had no idea who they were dealing with. If you've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people watch without ever doing it, but it costs you nothing and means everything to us. Thank you genuinely. 7 days. That's how long Christian and Olivia let the silence sit. Like they were hoping I'd cool down, lose interest, or convince myself I'd misread the whole thing. 7 days of nothing but a single text from Christian that said, "Still planning to come Thursday, Dad." With a period at the end, not an exclamation point, not an emoji, a period, the punctuation of a man who'd been coached. They were definitely coached. I spent that week doing what I do best. Not yelling, not spiraling, not tipping my hand. I made calls, quiet ones. I drove the 40 minutes down to Davenport on Monday, sat at Dorothy's kitchen table on Burwood Lane, drank her terrible decaf, and listened. She told me everything, and I mean everything. Turns out Dorothy Bennett had been busy while I was standing in Cedar Falls, feeling blindsided. The morning after Shirley Greer's phone call, that would be Sunday, my 81-year-old mother had gotten dressed, driven herself to downtown Davenport, and walked into the office of one Emily Johnson, estate attorney, 4th floor of the Kendall Professional Building on Brady Street. You already knew Emily Johnson. I stared at her across the kitchen table. She handled the Murphys' estate 2 years ago, Dorothy said, stirring her decaf like she was discussing the weather. Margaret Murphy spoke very highly of her. Kept her card. You kept her card. Keep everything, Luke. You know that. I did know that the woman still had my 3rd grade report card in a drawer upstairs. So you just walked in Sunday morning. Monday. She doesn't work Sundays. She's a professional. Dorothy gave me a look that suggested I should also consider being one. I told her what Shirley told me. She asked me some questions. I answered them. Then she made some calls of her own. What kind of calls? Dorothy set her spoon down with a small, precise click. The kind, she said, that confirmed Christian and Olivia had retained a lawyer, a Daniel Pute, apparently office over in West Des Moines, to begin the process of contesting my mental competency. The kitchen went very quiet. Outside, a lawn mower droned somewhere down Birchwood Lane. Cardinal hit the window feeder. Normal Thursday sounds in a normal neighborhood, except nothing was normal anymore and hadn't been for a week. Mental competency, I said. Apparently, I'm too old to make sound decisions about my own estate. She picked up her coffee cup. I found that interesting given that I was the one who walked into a lawyer's office without being asked while my son was still processing his feelings in Cedar Falls. I didn't have a response to that. She wasn't wrong. Mom, I pressed both hands flat on the table. I need you to hear me. What they're trying to do, it's not just insulting. It's illegal if done improperly. Emily explained it to me very thoroughly. She nodded. She also explained what I needed to do to make sure it goes nowhere, which is Dorothy smiled. It was the smile she used to give me when I was 16 and thought I was smarter than her. I never was, not once. We'll get to that, she said. Thursday arrived like a storm that's been on the radar for days. You know it's coming. You've done everything you can, but there's still that moment when you hear the first crack of thunder and your stomach drops. Anyway, Christian and Olivia pulled into my driveway at 2:14 p.m. in Olivia's white Audi. Of course it was an Audi, and I watched them from the kitchen window for a second before I went to the door. Christian got out first. He looked tired, hollowed out, the way men look when they've been arguing with their wives for a week and losing. Olivia got out second and she looked the opposite. Composed, bright-eyed, wearing that careful smile I'd spent years trying to decode. Now I had the translation. Turns it meant I want something that isn't mine. I opened the door before they knocked. Christian stepped forward and hugged me. It was a real hug. I'll give him that. The kid still loved me. Whatever Olivia had talked him into. He hadn't gone completely cold. I held on to that. Come in, I said. I made coffee. Olivia kissed my cheek. Luke, thank you for being patient with us. We really wanted to explain in person. Course, I said pleasantly. Patient. But that's what I'd been. We sat at the kitchen table. Same table where I'd eaten cereal as a kid. Same table where Christian had done homework. Same table that apparently no longer carried any sentimental weight for the people currently sitting at it with a legal strategy. Poured coffee. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then Christian said, Dad, we want to talk to you about Grandma Dorothy. Okay, I said. We're worried about her. Worried. She's 81. Olivia said, jumping in smooth like they'd rehearsed the handoff. She's alone in that house. She's managing significant assets without any oversight. And frankly, Luke, some of the decisions she's been making. What decisions? Yes. Olivia blinked. Just once, but I caught it. She hadn't expected me to push back this fast. Well, she gave a significant sum to her church last year without consulting anyone. It's her money, of course, but she can give it to the raccoons if she wants. Olivia, it's her money. Dad, nobody's saying she can't do what she wants. We just think there should be some structure, some oversight to protect her. To protect her. I looked at my son, this kid I'd coached Little League for, driven to college, lent money to twice without asking for it back, and I felt something I can only describe as exhausted grief, because he wasn't a bad person. He was a decent man who'd married a woman with a plan and mistaken it for a partnership. Is that why you had an estate attorney at Nathan's graduation party? Yes. The air in the room changed instantly. Christian went still. Olivia's smile didn't disappear. It was too trained for that, but it tightened at the corners like a rubber band being stretched. Who told you that? She asked. Quiet, controlled. Does it matter? We weren't. It wasn't like that, Christian said. Emily was just there as a friend. Emily Johnson, I said. 4th floor, Kendall Building, Brady Street, Davenport. Olivia set her coffee cup down. Emily Johnson, I continued, who interestingly enough is the same attorney my mother walked in to see on Monday morning. Silence. Beautiful. Total silence. Olivia, I said, turning to her directly. You want to tell me what's in that leather folder? Or should I tell you what Emily told my mother was in it? Whatever color was in Olivia's face made a quiet exit. Luke, she started. Daniel Pute, I said, West Des Moines. That name ring a bell. Christian looked at his wife. It was a fast look, a fraction of a second, but I'd been reading that kid's face for 32 years, and I knew exactly what it meant. He hadn't known about it. He hadn't known. Christian, I said, and my voice came out softer than I intended. How much of this did you actually know about? He didn't answer, but his jaw tightened, and he looked down at the table, and that was answer enough. Olivia jumped in. We were protecting the family's interests. That's all this ever was. Dorothy is 81 years old and she is sitting on assets that could benefit all of us, including Nathan, including she's sitting on assets that belong to her. I said that she earned that my father built for her. And you use my grandson's graduation party as cover for a legal meeting to start the process of declaring her incompetent. That's not stop. I held up one hand. Don't. You stop. Outside, another cardinal hit the feeder. Ordinary Thursday sounds. Here's what you need to understand, I said, and I kept my voice level because losing it would feel good for about 4 seconds and then give Olivia something to use. My mother knows. She knew before I did. She was in Emily Johnson's office on Monday while you were still deciding what to wear to this meeting. And Emily Johnson is no longer your family friend. Pause. She's Dorothy's attorney of record. And as of Tuesday, I said, Dorothy has made some changes to her estate documents. Emily was kind enough to let me know they've been filed and notarized. Olivia opened her mouth. I don't know the details, I said. Dorothy didn't share them with me. She said, and I'm quoting directly here, Luke, a woman's finances are her own business. I almost smiled at that. Almost. What I do know is that the competency challenge you were building, it's gone. Emily said the documentation they put together would take a team of lawyers 2 years to untangle and still go nowhere. The kitchen was silent for a long time. Then Christian said very quietly, Dad, I'm sorry. I looked at my son. I didn't say it was okay because it wasn't. There's one more thing I said. Nathan. Christian looked up. He doesn't know what that party was, does he? It wasn't a question. Christian shook his head slowly. He's going to find out, I said. Not from me, but he's going to find out. And when he does, that's between you two and him. I stood up and picked up my coffee cup. I think we're done for today. Olivia looked like she had 17 more things to say. She said, none of them. They left at 3:41 p.m. I watched the white Audi back out of my driveway and disappear down the street. Then I called Dorothy. She picked up on the first ring. How'd it go? She asked. About how you'd expect, I said. Christian didn't know about Pute. I didn't think he did, Mom. I leaned against the counter. What exactly did you change in those documents? Silence. Then that sound, that infuriating, magnificent Dorothy Bennett sound. I told you, Luke, a woman's finances are her own business. Mom, I'll see you Sunday for dinner, she said. I'm making pot roast. She hung up. I didn't know what she'd done yet, but I was about to find out. And something told me Olivia Davis Bailey's Thursday was about to get a whole lot longer. If you've been listening for a while and want stories like this to keep coming, it really helps if you hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. So thank you for real. Sunday pot roast. That's how my mother chose to detonate a bomb over pot roast, dinner rolls, and sweet tea at a table set for 5 in the house on Burwood Lane where I grew up. She'd ironed the tablecloth. Which meant she'd been planning this for longer than any of us knew. And every single one of us was about to find out exactly how long. Let me tell you something about Dorothy Bennett that you need to understand before the story ends. That woman has never raised her voice in anger. Not once in my memory. She doesn't slam doors. She doesn't cry in front of people. She doesn't threaten. She doesn't warn. She just waits, patient and quiet and absolutely lethal until the moment is exactly right. And then she doesn't destroy you loudly. She destroys you completely. Sunday 4:00 p.m. I pulled up to Burwood Lane and immediately noticed 2 things. First, Christian's car was already in the driveway. Second, so was Nathan's beat-up Honda Civic with the Drake University parking sticker on the back window. She'd invited Nathan. I sat in my truck for a full 10 seconds processing that information. Dorothy had invited Nathan, the grandson, the kid whose graduation party had been used as a staging ground for a legal ambush against his own great-grandmother. She'd invited him to Sunday dinner without telling anyone else. Oh, she was good. She was so incredibly good. I walked in through the front door, never knock at Dorothy's, she considers it rude from family, and found Christian sitting at the kitchen table looking like a man waiting for a sentencing hearing. Nathan was next to him, lanky and 20, scrolling his phone with the beautiful, oblivious energy of someone who had no idea what was about to happen to his afternoon. Olivia sat across from them both, spine straight, smile surgical, hands folded like she was chairing a board meeting. Dorothy was at the stove, stirring. "Luke," she said without turning around. "Hang your coat. Dinner's in 20. I hung my coat. I sat down. I looked at Christian, who looked at me, who looked away first. I looked at Olivia, who met my eyes with that polished steadiness that I now recognized for exactly what it was. The composure of someone who still believed they had options. She didn't have options. She just didn't know it yet. "Grandma D," Nathan said, finally looking up from his phone. "Smells incredible in here." "Thank you, baby," Dorothy said, still stirring. "How are your classes coming?" Good. Professor Ellman gave me an extension on my econ paper. So, I'm basically living my best life." "Wonderful," Dorothy said. "Hard work pays off." The irony in that sentence was load-bearing, and only 3 people in the room understood why. Dinner was the most elaborate performance of normally I have ever witnessed. Dorothy served pot roast, roasted carrots, dinner rolls from scratch. The woman is 81, and sweet tea in the good glasses. She asked Nathan about his roommate. She asked Christian about his job. She complimented Olivia's blouse, which was a very deliberate move because it made Olivia visibly uncertain whether she was being welcomed or set up. Both Olivia. The answer was both. I ate and watched and said very little, which is its own kind of skill. Christian was doing the same, picking at his food, laughing a half-beat too late at things. Nathan ate like only a 20-year-old college kid can eat, enthusiastically and without guilt, completely unaware that the table he was sitting at had been arranged like a chessboard, and every piece was already in position. Then Dorothy set down her fork, folded her napkin, placed it beside her plate with that small, precise click that I had heard once before in her kitchen on Monday, right before she told me about Daniel Pute. The sound of a woman who is ready. "Nathan," she said pleasantly, "I have something I'd like to give you." Nathan looked up, rolled halfway to his mouth. "Yeah." Dorothy reached into the pocket of her cardigan, the navy one, the good one she wore to church, and produced an envelope, cream-colored, sealed. She slid it across the table to him. Nathan put the roll down and picked up the envelope. "Grandma D, what is open it, sweetheart?" I watched his face as he read, watched the casual ease of it fade, replaced by concentration, then confusion, then something slower and more serious moving in behind his eyes. Christian was watching too. His fork had stopped moving entirely. Olivia had gone very still. Nathan looked up. "Grandma D, this says this is a check." "It is. This is a very large check." "Your grandfather worked very hard," Dorothy said simply. "And so did I. And you are going to finish that degree and do something that matters. So yes, it's a large check." "You don't. Mom, Dad, did you know about?" "No," Olivia said. Her voice was controlled, but I heard the fracture in it. "Thin as a hairline crack in good china." "There's a condition," Dorothy said. Nathan looked at her. "Bae. It goes directly into an account in your name only. Not a joint account, not a family account. Worse." He paused. "Emily Johnson's office set it up on Tuesday. It's already done. The check is a formality. The transfer has been initiated." The table was silent. I felt something in my chest that I can only describe as watching justice move in slow motion. "I also want you to know," Dorothy continued, her voice still perfectly infuriatingly calm, "that I've updated my estate documents. Everything has been restructured. Emily was very helpful." She picked up her sweet tea. "The Birchwood Lane property, the trust your grandfather established, the accounts, all of it has been reorganized in a way that Emily assures me is quite airtight." "Not at Christian." "Olivia, Grandma." Christian started. "I'm not finished, sweetheart." She set her glass down. I also want to mention, and I say this with love because I do love this family, that I've been evaluated by Dr. Patricia Howe at Davenport Medical Center on River Drive. Full cognitive assessment, memory, reasoning, judgment. She tilted her head slightly. Passed with, as Dr. Howe put it, remarkable clarity for any age, let alone 81. Emily has the report. It's been attached to my estate filing. The hairline crack in Olivia's composure split open just slightly. Just enough. Dorothy, she started. Olivia. Dorothy's voice didn't harden. It didn't have to. It just settled like a stone dropping to the bottom of clear water. I know about Daniel Pute. Silence. I know about the meeting at Nathan's party. More silence. I know what was in that leather folder. Nathan turned to look at his mother slowly. The way you turn toward a sound you're not sure you actually heard. What leather folder? He said. Nobody answered him. What meeting? His voice had changed. The easy college kid warmth gone. Something flatter and more adult moving in underneath. What are you talking about, Grandma D? Dorothy looked at her great-grandson with an expression of pure, uncomplicated love. Ask your parents, baby, she said gently. I think it's time. What followed was not a conversation I will describe in full because some of it belongs to Christian and his son and the long uncomfortable work of being honest with someone you love. What I will tell you is that Nathan Rivera Bailey was not the oblivious kid he'd appeared to be over dinner rolls. He was a 20-year-old who had noticed things. A lawyer he didn't recognize. A closed-door meeting during his own party. His mother's energy that day wound tight as a spring. He'd filed it away. Kids always do. When it came out, when Christian, pale and hollowed, explained what they'd been trying to do, Nathan didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just looked at his mother with an expression I recognized because I'd worn it myself at that kitchen table 4 days ago. The look that means I'm rearranging everything I thought I knew about you. You used my graduation, he said. Just that flat and quiet. Olivia tried. Nathan, we were trying to protect. You used my graduation. He said it again. Same tone like he was making sure the words were real. She had no answer for that. By 6:30 p.m., Christian and Olivia were gone. Nathan stayed. He sat at the kitchen table with Dorothy while I did the dishes, my traditional role at Sunday dinners going back 30 years. And I listened to them talk. Real talk. The kind that happens after everything false has been cleared away. I'm sorry they did that, Grandma D, he said. Don't apologize for other people's choices, she told him. That's a weight you don't need to carry. Are you okay, Nathan? Was. The sound of her patting his hand. I'm 81 years old. I have survived a great deal more than this. Your grandfather's passing. 3 recessions. A roof that collapsed in the winter of 1987. This was an inconvenience. He laughed, surprised into it. An inconvenience. Manageable one. Another pause. I have good people around me. Emily is sharp. Your grandfather Luke, despite his feelings, kept himself together. Despite his feelings, I called from the sink. You wanted to flip the table at Thursday's meeting, and we both know it, Luke. Nathan laughed again. It was a good sound. Real one. I had not flipped the table, but I won't pretend it hadn't crossed my mind. I walked out to my truck at 7:15 p.m. Nathan walked out with me. Hands in his pockets, Drake hoodie, the cold Davenport evening turning his breath to small clouds. Grandpa Luke, he said. Yeah, that's real. That's mine. It's yours. Emily Johnson locked it up tight. Your name. Your account. Nobody touches it. I know you didn't. I looked at my grandson. This kid who'd been used as camouflage without his knowledge, who'd sat through a Sunday dinner that detonated his understanding of his own family, who hadn't crumbled or deflected or made it about himself. Yeah, I said. She does. Don't waste it. He nodded, kicked at a pebble on the driveway. Is my dad going to be okay? There's the kid who loves his father. He's going to have some hard weeks, I said. But Christian's not a bad man. He made a bad decision with a person who was very convincing about it being a good one. That's a recoverable thing. If he does the work, Nathan nodded slowly. What about my mom? I looked at him for a moment. That I said carefully is above my pay grade. He almost smiled at that. He looked back at the house, the light in the kitchen window, Dorothy's silhouette moving around her clean table. She's something else, isn't she? Grandma D. She always has been. I said. We just keep forgetting. I drove back to Cedar Falls on a cold Sunday night with the radio low and the highway empty, and the particular feeling of a man who has watched something be made right without throwing a single punch. It's a quieter satisfaction than revenge movies prepare you for. Less explosion, more resolution. The specific exhale of watching someone underestimate the wrong person and live with the consequences. Dorothy Bennett had been written off as a sweet old woman on a lamb line in a house on Burwood Lane. She'd been assessed, strategized against, and legally maneuvered by people who ate her pot roast and called her family. She'd beaten them before they'd even finished planning. She had a clean cognitive report, an airtight estate, a sharp attorney, and a great-grandson whose future was locked in an account that nobody could touch. All Olivia had was a lawyer in West Des Moines who was about to have a very unproductive phone call Monday morning. I almost felt bad. I did not feel bad. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat at 8:22 p.m. I glanced at it at a red light on Highway 30. Text from Dorothy. Dinner was nice. The rolls came out well. I stared at it for a second, then I typed back. You destroyed them with pot roast and sweet tea. Dad would have loved it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then he always did love a good Sunday. I set the phone down and drove the rest of the way home in the dark. And I thought about my father, a quiet man who built something real and left it to a woman he trusted completely. I thought about how the people who tried to take it had looked at Dorothy and seen fragility, seen an old woman, seen an opportunity. They hadn't seen what I'd spent 60 years watching. They hadn't seen her. And that right there was the only mistake that ever mattered. If you like this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being a part of this sphere.